Yes, sir.
Let's put Fani and Nikki in jail.
Okay. We can.
Yeah, folks, that was a kid who suggests that we should put Nikki Haley and Fani Willis in jail. Now, when I saw that clip, I was immediately reminded of a story from my childhood, and I wanted to take a minute and share it with you guys. Back when I was 10 years old, the Gulf War started, and my grandfather was a World War II veteran. His brother was a Korean War veteran, and I had another uncle who was a Vietnam veteran. And growing up, I was taught to be very respectful of veterans, and we would have Veterans Day events at school, and the vets would show up and we would all honor them. And I could say, yeah, my grandfather was in World War II, my great uncle was in Korea, and my uncle was in Vietnam. And I was proud of them for their service to the country. So I was 10 years old, the Gulf War starts, and all of a sudden I see on television, I see protesters burning American flags in protest of the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. And I see that, and as a kid, I get really upset and emotional because I immediately think of my grandfather, my great uncle, and my uncle. And I say, oh, that's wrong. They should lock those people away. So I go to my grandfather, World War II veteran, lifelong Republican, and I say to him, you know, Papa, I just saw something on TV that was so disgusting. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. These people, these Americans were burning the American flag. And he said, yeah, I saw that. I really hated seeing that. I said, well, they should put those people in jail. They should put them in prison for the rest of their life. They shouldn't be allowed to do something like that. And he said, well, now, wait a minute, hold on. He said, stop right there. He said, I don't agree with them burning the flag at all, and I would never want to see you do something like that. He said, but at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, he said, they do have the right to do it because they do have freedom of speech. And when we went into countries to bring those countries democracy, we did so that they would be allowed to stand up to their leaders. They would be able to speak out and disagree with their leaders. He said, so as much as I don't like seeing that, he said, what you got to understand is it's still legal. It's still protected under the First Amendment. So I don't agree with it. I would never want to see you do it. But no, we should never put those people in jail. And I remember that being such a humbling moment as a kid because I was going, wow, man, this is coming from a guy who was there. This is coming from a guy who came home with shrapnel on his legs and the back of his head. This is a guy who had burns on his knees. This is a guy that saw some real shit. Yet he could say that. And it was humbling. It was a moment where I was like, damn, if he could say that, then no one else has an excuse. Now, when I see that kid saying that, I say to myself, that kid probably doesn't have my grandpa for a granddad. Because the question is, do you honestly think that kid who will be old enough to vote before long, he'll grow up and he'll go to the polls, how much do you think he's learned about racism? How much do you think he's learned about the gay and trans community? How much do you think he's learned about how government works? Or has he been fed every right-wing conspiracy theory? Has he been fed the MAGA ideology that Donald Trump is right and everybody else is out to get him? A kid like that, I don't blame the kid. I blame the parents. But that right there, that kid is that kid saying that, not the kid saying that, is exactly why I get so irritated when I see left-leaning people just constantly demonizing woke. Because if you sit and demonize woke long enough and you stop raising awareness on racism, you stop raising awareness on other people's struggles, you stop raising awareness on the rights that have been stripped away from women, from gays and trans people, when you start doing away with raising awareness to those issues, you're going to raise kids up who are going to have no idea what any of those things are. And well, if somebody disagrees with us, just lock them up. Just put them in jail. Just throw away the key. That type of rhetoric is being taught to children right now. And I'm hopeful for the future that more young people will raise up and vote, but there is always going to be those type of kids being raised to believe that stuff. That's why that if you have a voice of reason in you and you can use it and you can speak up, the more you speak up, the more people hears you speak up. There's always going to be that kid that may get fed those talking points, but he's going to say, wait a minute, hold on. This guy or this girl over here, they're making a whole lot of sense. I don't really see it the way that I've been told. There's always that kid that has the voice of reason in it. And there's also the ones that will grow up and the rest of their life be that way. And when you look back at history, you look back at the boomer generation, you had the hippies, you had all the protests and all the things that went on back then, and then we saw a whole lot of those people turn and become Republicans later in life. And we also, when I was a kid, I used to wonder, where did those racists and all those videos that I would see of Selma and Birmingham, where did those people go? The people that was squirting the mustard and the ketchup on the people's head at the lunch counter. I used to say to myself, well, where did all those people go? Well, they were still here, and they were raising kids. And when Donald Trump came along, he gave them all a voice to say, yeah, go right ahead and say it all out loud as proudly as you want to. And now they're raising their kids. We've had 8 years. So say you got a 10-year-old kid. Let's say there was a kid, 10-year-old, when Donald Trump started his first term. That kid's about to be 18. What do you think he's heard for the last 8 years? And did that kid have a grandfather like mine that would take him to the side and say, hey, listen, wait a minute, hold on. That's not how it is. Is there a Republican left out there like my grandfather who would have done that? And I know that wasn't an easy thing for my grandfather to say, because I could see the anger in his eyes. I could see that he was genuinely pissed off about it. But he realized what this country was about, and he realized what he was fighting for. And we all need to keep our focus on what we're truly fighting for. Come November, folks, we're fighting for truth and we're fighting for democracy, and we cannot take our eyes off the ball, because there is a generation being raised to think like that kid. I hope that kid finds his way. I hope that kid comes across some cool uncle or some cool cousin that can show him the brainwashing that took place. I hope he bumps into a man with my grandfather's mentality. But we got to keep our eye on the ball, and we can never stop fighting for truth and democracy.